Imagine you woke up tomorrow and Amazon was gone, but someone handed you a dusty book and proved the exact same trillion-dollar business model already existed centuries before electricity. What if I told you the ultimate secret to building massive wealth, the exact strategy used by the biggest tech companies in the world today, was secretly perfected by a forgotten group of lords deep in the Middle Ages? You are about to discover a hidden financial secret from history that will completely change how you look at the apps on your phone and the way you think about making money forever. 700 years ago, a group of ambitious rulers known as the Counts of Champagne had a massive problem. They wanted to be incredibly rich, but their land was terrible. They lived in a dusty, landlocked region of France. They had no oceans for giant trade ships. They had no gold mines. They had no special crops. If you wanted to be wealthy back then, you needed to physically produce something valuable, like fine silk, exotic spices, or heavy iron swords. The Counts had none of this. But instead of accepting their fate, they had a realization that would change the history of business forever. They realized you do not need to make the best product to get rich. You just need to own the space where everyone else buys and sells those products. This is the exact moment the platform business model was born. It is the same idea that powers Amazon, eBay, and Airbnb today. The Counts decided that if they could not be the merchants, they would become the marketplace. They announced they were throwing a massive year-round series of trade fairs. They invited sellers from the freezing north who had heavy wool and furs, and buyers from the sunny south who had spices and luxury goods. But a marketplace is just an empty field. Why would anyone travel hundreds of miles through dangerous forests just to stand in a field? The Counts knew that to get people to use their platform, they had to solve the biggest problem in the world at that time. That problem was trust. If you were a traveling merchant 700 years ago, your life was terrifying. Bandits hid in the woods. Crooked kings would steal your goods. Traveling with a cart full of expensive items was basically asking to be robbed. So the Counts did something absolutely unbelievable. They created the ancient version of the Amazon guarantee. They promised that any merchant traveling to their fairs would be under their absolute physical protection. If a merchant was robbed on their way to the marketplace, the Counts would send their own private army to hunt down the thieves and get the money back. If a buyer refused to pay a seller, the Counts would ban that buyer from ever returning. They created a perfectly safe bubble in a very dangerous world. Suddenly, merchants realized they did not have to worry about security anymore. They just had to show up and sell. This is exactly what modern platforms do. When you buy something on Amazon or rent a room on Airbnb, you are not really trusting a random stranger. You are trusting the platform. You know that if the product is broken or the room is a mess, the platform will give you a refund. Trust is the actual product the platform is selling. Because the Counts provided this incredible trust, thousands of merchants started rushing to their fields, and this is where the financial genius of the entire operation kicks in. The Counts did not charge a massive, greedy tax on the merchants. They knew that high taxes would scare people away. Instead, they charged tiny, almost invisible fees on absolutely everything. They charged a tiny fee to rent a wooden stall. They charged a toll to cross the bridge into the town. They charged a small fee to weigh goods on the official scale. They even charged a tiny percentage when people exchanged different types of coins. This is the secret of the toll booth business model. When you collect a fraction of a penny from a million different people, you become wealthy beyond imagination without ever breaking a sweat. The Counts did not weave a single piece of cloth. They did not grow a single grain of pepper. They took zero risk on the products. If a merchant brought ugly clothes that nobody wanted to buy, the merchant went bankrupt. But the Counts still got their rental fee for the stall. This is why owning the platform is always better than being the seller. The seller takes all the inventory risk. The platform owner just collects a fee for opening the door. But the story gets even crazier. As the marketplace grew, a new massive problem appeared. With thousands of deals happening every day, carrying heavy bags of gold and silver coins became impossible. Imagine trying to buy a massive shipment of silk and having to count out 10,000 silver coins by hand in the middle of a crowded street. It was slow, dangerous, and exhausting. So, the Counts and the merchants invented something that sounds entirely modern. They basically invented digital money hundreds of years before computers existed. Instead of paying with actual heavy metal, A merchant would just write a promise on a piece of paper. It was a credit note. A buyer would give the seller a piece of paper that essentially said, "I owe you this much money, and I will pay you at the very end of the fair." For weeks, merchants traded furiously, swapping goods, buying spices, and selling wool, and almost zero actual money changed hands. Everything was just pieces of paper moving around. Then, at the end of the marketplace, something magical happened. All the merchants gathered in a special tent with professional accountants. They put all their pieces of paper on a table and started canceling out their debts. If Merchant A owed Merchant B 10 coins, and Merchant B owed Merchant A 10 coins, they just tore up the paper. No money needed to move. They created a giant clearinghouse. This meant millions of dollars worth of trade was happening instantly, smoothly, and without heavy gold ever leaving a safe. 700 years ago, they created the exact same system as an online shopping cart and a digital payment gateway. They removed every single point of friction between the buyer and the seller. This ancient marketplace became the beating heart of the global economy for over 100 years. The Counts of Champagne became some of the richest and most powerful people in history, all because they understood one simple rule. Wealth does not come from doing the hardest work. Wealth comes from positioning yourself in the middle of the flow of money. They built the pipes, and they let everyone else push the water through. Every time you open an app today, you are looking at the exact same strategy. Uber does not want to own cars or change tires. They just want to own the app that connects the driver to the rider so they can take a small cut. Airbnb does not want to scrub toilets or buy expensive real estate. They just want to own the platform that connects the tourist to the homeowner so they can take a small cut. Amazon makes billions selling its own products, but its true superpower is letting millions of other businesses sell on its website, while Amazon sits back, provides the trust, and collects a fee on every single click, swipe, and delivery. The greatest financial lesson hidden in history is right in front of us. If you want to change your financial future, stop thinking only about how to make a better product. Stop thinking only about how to be a better employee or a harder worker. Start thinking about how you can create a platform. Start looking for ways to connect two groups of people who need each other. Find a way to create trust. Make the transaction perfectly smooth, and take a tiny piece of the value you create. You do not need to be the one mining for gold. You just need to be the one selling the shovels and owning the road to the mine. If you love discovering this hidden financial secret from the past, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss another story that changes how you see money. And I would love to know what you think, so tell me in the comments below. Which famous historical business, ancient empire, or forgotten financial mystery should we explore and decode in the next video?